Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is focused and dedicated to Bannerlord. We continue with our War Sales campaign featuring a badass Nord character and a no-cavalry army. We're not using horses, we're not going to have a bow on the main character, we're not going to smith, we're just going to bludgeon and smash and slash Calradia into submission. Now we've been making an invasion here from our homeland. Savfk is the only city that we possess as a vassal of the Nords, but our main character here has ambitions and delusions of grandeur. He looks spectacular in his incredible armor, and we've been slaughtering Valandians now for about 3 or 4 episodes. It's about 4 hours for me over the course of 2 separate days. And I want to continue to add a few armies here as our influence continues to grow. You want to, just like a small business, you want to expand slowly. These Valandians are fleeing, although they're hesitant. They're considering fighting here. And okay, we engage them. So this is an interesting opportunity, maybe to do some offensive tactics. They have a lot of crossbow, and they're not thrilled about fighting here. So here's the thing, the AI in this situation, this can be beneficial for new players. In fact, let's add on, what can we do? We can do Carbansith. We can siege Carbansith. I think that'll be the kind of siege where we can do relatively easy tactics, and we can add this battle here. Do a couple perks here for our main character. We got the 250 axe perk. How savage is that? This guy's our infantryman here. And unless these Valandians are aggressive, it'll be a good opportunity for us to show a newer player, a less experienced commander, how an experienced player deals with the defensive enemy. Of course, we've got to make sure they're going to play defensive first, and we'll try to keep these tactics on the intermediate side. We're not going to run 3 divisions or 2 divisions. You can run the Nords with 2 divisions, but you have very limited options in a battle like this compared to what we're going to do here. We'll do 5 divisions. The 7th, 4th and 5th will be archers, and the 1st and 6th will be infantry, and we'll get down on the ground level here, and I'll walk you through a highly experienced tactician, show you kind of what I think. And then of course you can expound upon it. You can take the tactics that we're sharing on the channel, add your own twist to get rid of the stuff you don't like, etc. Now our 4th division has lots of shields, and we're going to use them at the beginning here. We're going to approach the enemy with 2 different shield walls, the first and 4th, and I think we'll flank with the 5th, 6th, and 7th, right? So we have 3 different flanking divisions. The basic concept is this, right? As we look over our units, I'm looking over a little closer. The AI can really only point at shields in one direction. It's almost never going to have more than 1 infantry division, which means that you can approach it from the angles and flanks to get savage crossfire on them. We've also got some elevation there towards the left we can probably use. And the biggest key is that although it seems difficult to manage these 5 armies, once you practice this becomes absolutely like taking candy from a baby. The AI is going to be largely static. Are they? Now they look like they're moving horizontally, not towards us. They've got a lot of crossbow. I can't tell, but it looks like it's 250 or 200. It's hard to know. The numbers are all jumbled together. But there's hills on the left here. Let's use the elevation, right? Because our archers shooting downhill, our skirmishers, we can kite back into our archers. It'll eventually force the enemy to charge, at which point we can surround them and destroy them. We're not going to do a kill box here. We're not going to do a huge amount of movement, but we're going to do some movement here. So I guess we won't call this beginner's tactics, because that would just be, you know, a couple 3 divisions and then angling them a little bit. But we'll call this easy mode, right? We're gonna fight these battles without a huge amount of pressure or movement, and hopefully, you know, even the less experienced commander can easily pick this up. So 5th, 7th, 6th. Now the 6th skirmishers, we're gonna hold fire. We have a skirmisher division that has a lot of guys with throwing axes. You don't want them throwing those throwing axes at a long distance. There's a bunch of reasons for that, but the main reason is they run out of ammo. I'm getting shot at. And that's a good sign, right? That means their archers are lined up over here. What does that mean? That means our other 2 divisions are going to be able to come on their flank, right? The troops across the valley there are the ones we're commanding at range. And it seems difficult, but I'll walk you through it. Now I'm going to tuck an archer division right here. we're leading with shields, right? The enemy does have cavalry, and that presents a threat. What we're going to do with the cavalry is present the same defense that also stops archers, right? Shield-walled or squared infantry does really well against cavalry, especially Nord squares, right? This is the Nord's advantage. Shit, these guys are moving too fast. Let's move our unit into line formation here. Get those guys hurrying up. Now the enemy's facing us, right? That's actually fine because the 1st and 4th Division are going to have good flanking angles. So we're going to embrace that, right? This 6th Division has some of our best units. There's Huscarls in there. I can see their gleaming armor from here. There's some lower level troops too. I see little Santa Hat Sturgeons. And the other divisions are just creeping up on the enemy's flank. See how the enemy's facing us here? That 1st and 4th Division is going to have wicked side enfilade fire, shooting the enemy from the side. Let's get the 7th now positioned on the hill behind me. So the shields are pushing forward and their cavalry's getting frisky over here. So you just shield wall, right? And watch how few kills they get. I bet they get a handful at most. They're hitting this thick Nord wall of iron. And I didn't see any. I didn't see a single kill by their cavalry on our square. Now, I'm going to walk in between the 2 different divisions here because I am micromanaging these divisions. In other words, I'm going to sort of play in between these 2 divisions. The good thing is I have plenty of athleticism, and I don't need a shield. I just keep moving. People are shooting at me, but they're missing. I can hear the arrows whizzing by, the bolts whizzing by, and just systematically moving up. Now, we're close enough that the skirmishers are going to be able to start to unleash hell, right? That division I told you that was on hold fire. Now they're going to bring the archers over here on that right side and basically wait until the enemy starts to spread out before we get our archers engaged. The skirmishers over here are now close enough that you can have them fire. So what I like to do is switch them to line and then have them fire right here. And look at all the javelins and mostly throwing axes. They are raining into the enemy ranks. Meanwhile, our archers and infantry on this side have flanking angles. And I'm pushing our infantry. They got 1 or 2 kills there. I'm pushing our infantry towards the enemy cavalry, basically keeping that infantry in between the archers and the rest of our units. Now the infantry and archers, it looks like, are charging, so we're going to kite here. Kiting just means moving your units back, and the beauty of this is we're moving our skirmishers back towards the rest of our archers. The reason, as they charge our archers here, no way to avoid that. The reason that's effective is that the enemy's essentially charging into the archer fire while the rest of the skirmishers run backwards. The skirmishers effectively are being protected by archers. And they're going to be under a hail of darts. Look at that shit. There's just throwing axes and arrows hailing in on the enemy. We have our other division moving in behind the enemy. They're desperately trying to maintain a shield wall. Their crossbow is totally confused and being massacred. I think their crossbow is just delirious here. They're out in front. They're being shot to death. There's some crossbow here we should try to protect. We can move them back, but this battle is already over. Our skirmishers are working. I'm just going to stand here and admire the beauty of this. Now, our 1st Division's coming in behind the enemy here. They can start to charge. Oh, shit. I get dropped. And at this stage, F1, F3 is totally appropriate, right? We've got the enemy in a checkmate situation. I wasn't watching my character's health. I was trying to watch the battlefield. And we paid for it, but that's okay because this battle is over, and that was the foreplay, right? The rest is just sex, killing people with your sword and axe. The hard work is over. Now we get to enjoy the slaughter of these Valandians. And of course, we're using the RTS mod, so I get the joy of just picking up one of our companions here. I guess that's still not a thing, even with the update to the knockdown feature of Bannerlord. They did not add that feature. Your ability essentially to take over a companion or family member. You can only take over other troops on the battlefield. Of course, I don't actually use that feature, right? We use the RTS mod, which evidently supersedes that, so I'm only speaking from what I read in the patch notes. Obviously, you guys can correct my ignorance if I'm wrong, but I hope they change that. I think you should definitely be able to take over your companions, your family members after a battle. after your character's knocked out in battle. I don't see why not. We're playing this game to have fun. I don't know why you would have restrictions like that. And maybe they're still working on the coding. I'm not sure. But that's a wonderful change, and that's definitely one of the changes that we really asked for. And I can't help but feel like Tailworlds is listening, right? When they make multiple changes, that we are one of the front runners and foremost people on YouTube on their channel daily saying, hey, you need to improve heavy cavalry. Hey, you need to nerf Fiend champs. Hey, you need to add this feature. It feels really good. It feels like we're wonderfully connected to Tailworlds, right? Because you guys send information to me about the game you'd like to see improve. I assimilate that information and we turn it in here. Now, it looks like Valandia is sending their housewives against us. No wonder they got crushed. That gal was barefoot, naked, and on the battlefield. And we're going to continue to pick up prisoners, particularly the Marines, right? The Nauta. These are crossbow units that fight better in the ocean. Initially, here at least, we're going to have a quasi-amalgamated, quasi-mixed army of Nords. We're not going to be racist, only using Nord units. And part of the reason is until you get several fiefs, it's very hard to have an only Nord army without a whole lot of running around. And of course, I don't want to go back and forth and give you guys this incongruous Groundhog Day where every couple battles I've got to run back to the homeland and recruit a bunch of Nordlings. Long term, definitely, we will have a Nord army. It'll be 90 to 95% Nords. There'll be some troops that sneak in. And we will get deep into the weeds on the best troops. Now, I doubt we get Oxhall, maybe? Now, even if we apply the maximum influence, we can't get Oxhall, but that's also fine. That was going to be very difficult to get to, right? It's deep in the interior. We're not going to be able to hold that as a kingdom. Valandia will take that back. Now, what is this shit? This gal, Golta, is over here raiding villages. I like this gal. She's chasing down deserters, although she might be in trouble. We're on the lookout for a wife, right? I've got some agendas for this episode and the next 3 or 4 episodes. We need a wife. We need more fiefs. We're going to talk about policies. And frankly, we're doing the old battlefield eyeball test, right? We want a wife that can fight. We want a wife that can be a governor too, but fighting, I think, is definitely a priority. In this campaign, Glaron Heavyhand would prefer a wife who can just hack and slash and stand next to the men with a scowl. And I vaguely remember this gal, Gulta. Let's see if we can't call her to the army here. Let's see if she even... she's not even on the list. That's how disobedient she is. This is an independent woman right here. So I think that's her. She had ponytails. She kind of had a scowl. And that's right up Glaron Heavyhand's Glaron Heavyhand's alley, right? A mean... Hopefully she's got some bad attributes. Hopefully she's like sadistic and stuff like that. That'll be perfect for this campaign. And we're not going to be too worried about the heirs of this family. We're not doing fast mode, so we're not going to crank out a bunch of heirs. And this is her. Look at that scowl. And, man. All right. We're definitely interested. You know, we're winking and doing all the other stalking, online stalking stuff. Horgar. Her dad, yeah. We need to meet your father, young lady. We are interested. We're going to shower him with some silver and try to put you into our infantry ranks. So that'll be added to our agenda. He's way up at a city that's days away, so we're not worried about it yet. But we could also make our way there, right? We could take Carbansith and head that direction. Now, the AI continues to do, and there's only one way to describe it, basically artificial imbecility. They chase those deserters down right in front of us. This is not terrific behavior. They should be running for their lives because Glaron Heavyhand is glaring at them, right? They should be fleeing. And I'm not ripping Tailworld so much as just encouraging them. Just keep improving, just like the rest of us, right? I could do more push-ups at 50 than I could do at 30. So we're all just trying to improve. And as long as Tailworlds keeps trying to improve this game, it's going to be one of the greatest games of all time. All right, let's rip some villages off here. We're going to rob them of their food. We're going to tell them, give us your sons and daughters. We're not asking, we're telling. We're going to have a pretty good-sized army by the time we get to Carbansith. And then I think we'll try like an easy mode siege, right? We can do we can do basically a fairly simplistically broken down siege of how an experienced player would handle a siege without too much complications to it. We do this policy here. Clans lose 1 influence per day. Yeah, in a larger party size, only the king doesn't like that policy, but the rest of us like it because that's going to allow us to form sizable armies, right? An extra 40 troops that's pretty important. So, and the king, quite honestly, he's kind of a dipshit, right? We're slowly discovering that Halthar is kind of a dumbass. We'll see. We're going to go to villages here. We're going to tell us, give us your sons, and march our way through Valandian territories, right? Looting and sacking all the livelong way. We should be up to 250 troops. There it is. 251 troops now for Glaron Heavyhand. And that wasn't an earthquake. That was Calradia collectively shuddering with fear. And I think it's a good opportunity probably to do an example siege for less experienced players. We want to make sure that we include as many people as possible on the channel. There's a lot of people that just picked up War Sales, and it's overwhelming. There's a huge amount of different things that you can do in Bannerlord and that are confusing. And I think Keep Siege is one thing that frustrates a lot of players. So let's see how many there are here at Carbansith. I think it makes sense, right? If we could take Carbansith, then we can sail back to our capital here. Maybe we get married, right? We go talk to the father of this beautiful warrioress, angry, cruel, beautiful warrioress. And there's only 554 here. That's actually optimal. We have 850. So let's demonstrate, I guess, what I would consider, I don't want to say a beginner's mode, because you really, if you're at this stage and you don't know much about Bannerlord, boy, you must have some great intuition. Most people have to have quite a bit of experience just to get to this stage. We'll call this easier siege, right? Earlier we did an advanced siege. This time we will do some limited action siege. We've got some upgrades we can do here in a second, but let's get this siege on. Now, a few things you notice right away. At the top there, food stocks 600 plus 29. That means we basically can't starve this city out. I mean, logically, we can't starve it out. It's going to take a very long time. The plus 29, when you're looking at that, basically means the food projection is projected to go up, right? So it's going to get increased even more. Now, I had half of mine just to do a bum rush siege assault here, where we ignore building all this catapults and trebuchets and stuff like that. But I think this still needs to be part of the process. And let me again just explain this, right? When you start a siege, the enemy has all these catapults already built. It's basically a built-in advantage for the defender while you're building your siege camp. Before you can even begin to build your siege assault weapons, the enemy is going to build the maximum 4 catapults or 3 catapults and a fire ballista, as is the case here. Now, if we just built like a siege tower or a ram or something like that and tried to launch the siege, these siege weapons would demolish our troops. We might still win the battle. If, as you can see, the red bar there is pretty small. We've got a clear advantage here. But how do you win a siege like this with relatively simplistic tactics and not suffer huge losses? Well, generally the rule of thumb is, unless you have really high siege skill, and this guy's getting up there, right? His siege skill is really starting to blossom. Unless you have really high siege skill, what I would recommend, what I think most people recommend, is you build your trebuchets, at least 3. In this case, we do have a fire onager. You know what? Let's just change it to trebuchet. We'll do full-on easy mode. Now, it's building one there that are already queued up. So as soon as it's built, we need to take this and say move to reserve. There's basically 2 different processes. One of them is when they're building it from scratch. That's this speed. In other words, if the bar is moving very slowly. When you click it to activate it, it moves much, much faster. And that's sort of simulating that you built the trebuchet and you're moving it forward into the range of the enemy siege weapons. As soon as you do, the enemy siege weapons will shoot and pound your trebuchet, right? So you want to be patient, and you want to make sure that you have at least 3 built, right? There's 1 built right there. Now when we click this, I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully we can get it to come up. At the bottom there's a little 3. That means we have 3 of these trebuchets cached, or basically built and ready to activate. A good rule of thumb is when this yellow bar is most of the way, 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full, then you click through here and build your trebuchets. Now you don't have to have great dexterity to do all this. Of course, you can just wait till it's right about here and then pause. In my case, it's the space button. Trebuchet, trebuchet, trebuchet. Bang. And these are going to build very quickly because they're already built. Because of that, you want to start building your siege ram and or a tower. I will build 1 tower here. And you see these building much faster than this one. That's because this one on the far left is being built fresh, from scratch. So they're all built, and very quickly here we should overwhelm the city's siege. Just like the advanced siege, they will shell the enemy. They already destroyed this catapult. They're also aiming at the walls, and there is nothing you can do to stop that. They will aim where they will aim, and sometimes it's maddening. They'll be getting shelled by the enemy catapults while they're sieging the walls. It can be quite frustrating. Just stick with it. If they start getting damaged, or worse, if you suffer 2 or 3 of them getting destroyed, and the enemy has a bunch of fire catapults and is just bombarding you, start over. Do it again from scratch and say, put in reserve, put in reserve, put in reserve. Because if you get to a stage where you have 1 trebuchet and you're trying to build another one and it's taking forever, and the enemy is, 4 catapults just pounding your trebuchets, you're losing that race, right? This is effectively a race. Who can destroy whose siege first? Obviously, in this case, we're winning, and winning by a lot, right? Now, I don't want to do this in the dark. You won't benefit from being in the dark. And what we're going to do in this siege is a lot of essentially AI being in charge, right? I think that's probably enough light, and we're going to start here before this catapult is built. If we start right now, I just paused it, this catapult will not enter the battle, the entire siege. So we have 4 trebuchets, we have a siege ram and a siege tower. This is going to be a pretty easy siege. That said, there's still a bunch of troops here. Now you can hold your mouse button or whatever over this. In this case, it's the Alt button, and it shows you the troops in there. And the troops in this city are pretty weak. That top number, the Battanian Volunteer, that's absolute scrub. That guy has no shield. A lot of these troops are really bad. So honestly, this is a very easy mode siege, especially after what we've done here. Now we're going to do a few upgrades just because you might as well, right? We have these troops, they're ready to upgrade. And you say, well, maybe we should do that after the siege. No, if you upgrade them now, then they can upgrade again during the battle, right? We have these Battanian Volunteers that we've been carrying around. They're turning into wood runners. And those wood runners will eventually turn into really good skirmishers, right? So we want to continue to upgrade these guys. Units can only upgrade 1 level per battle. So it's a step system. You want to make sure you're doing as many steps as you can per episode. We don't have as many archers as I typically like, and I can recruit prisoners, but we just don't need to. We're going to be able to absolutely overwhelm the city. Now, I could get a shield on here. Let's see, how do we do this? I think we will try this approach. There's 0 chance of us losing this siege, so we're just going to take this approach. I'm going to have a normal weapon load, an abnormal weapon loadout than I normally use. We're going to take a really fast axe. We've got really good throwing axes. Now we have a sword, shield, and I think I'll change this as well. Let's see what we have here. And we may not actually have a good banner for it. I would prefer a decrease taken ranged or melee attack damage. We don't really have it for our main character. That's okay. The banners are important, though. The best one for siege is usually decrease taken melee attack damage. In other words, getting hit by weapons. But ranged attack is pretty good, too, if the enemy's pounding you with arrows. Let's jump in here before I bore you to death. Now, big advantages here. First, we have the range advantage over the enemy, period. That's just all there is to it. If you don't do anything with your ranged units, in other words, if I just hit this button, your ranged units will run up here and they will start getting behind cover and shooting the enemy, and the enemy will in turn try to shoot them. We're going to do at least a few simple things here, right? Your captains, even if you're not commanding your divisions, at least put proper captains in the right divisions. In this case, this is a good infantry captain, and notice the banner effect, decrease taken melee attack damage. That's going to help him greatly. This gal here we're hoping is our future wife, and that is why, man, she is gorgeous, she's cruel, and that is a perk list of a woman I would marry. Now her banner sucks, but that's all right. We can change that once we get her in the army. So let's put some of the lords in the 2nd division here, and we're going to make basically an attack division. What I'm going to say is select shields, javelins, this little button that gives you throwing weapons and high tier preference, and we're going to make it about 80 units deep, right? By moving this slider, we get up to about 80 units in our 2nd division. Of course, you can look at it on the battlefield before things start. Now, notice it's archers, right? If I wanted infantry here, I should have done this. And then, of course, it's going to reset that division to infantry. You can also do this. In fact, let's go ahead and just try this for this episode. So it's going to give us crossbow or archers with shields because I've clicked this little button. Click get preference for troops with shields. Now, there's no problem with this other than the fact that my main character here does not have any bow perks, right? So he's sort of... He's suboptimal for that role. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on the rest of the positions here because this is already going to be 20 minutes of your time. Let's just move some people into some divisions here and get started. Now again, I'm not going to move any of these archers at all. I'm going to be focused on this 2nd division only. This is going to be a very easy siege example. And we are going to try to take this side over here. Now there's a siege ladder right there. Usually they're laying next to each other. This one happens to be over here, right? So this is a little bit awkward. And every city is different as far as your approach, right? In this case, we have a siege tower over here. You got to come all the way back here. And let's try to change it up, right? We have the RTS mod, so we'll be able to speed this up. Say I want this siege tower to approach the other side of the city. You have that control. You can come in here and say, nah, I don't want to do that. You hit this little button. That turns into an X. That means it's not there. And it's not always easy to find. It kind of looks like a dilapidated chimney or the Game of Thrones chair. Then you just click this and say, yeah, that's where I want my siege tower. And it's right there. Now, I'd recommend you put some troops on it. Essentially how this works is the troops get behind this thing. They push it. They get down here in these little things. And if they get shot from archers on the wall, more guys will rush up to push that siege tower. Well, if you have it like this, where there's nobody assigned to it, there's nobody behind it, there's a chance it won't make it to the wall, right? So take a division and click it on that siege tower. If you're going to move that siege tower around like we did, make sure that you have people actually pushing it. Otherwise, you're going to experience unpleasant results. All right, so we got our 2nd division here, and that's the only division I'm going to micromanage. Now, we're going to look at other divisions on the field, but I think most of them are going to do just fine on their own, right? The 3rd division is on a ram. The 7th division is over here. The archers are basically in auto deploy. In other words, the AI is doing it. That is in case you're not that experienced, right? A lot of players just let the AI take control of things. We're going to do that with one exception here, right? We're going to use this 2nd division, and I reserve the right to grab like the 6th archers and bring them up for support. I think you guys can pretty much handle that. Now this is a bug, basically. It's starting us off way behind the rest of our troops. It's kind of an unfortunate new element with the DLC. They add 100 features, and with that comes a dozen bugs. And guys are infuriated, and I would just say, wait till you get, horrific tax bill or you experience some kind of other horrific part of life. You're going to realize that your problems in Bannerlord are very minuscule. And I'm not trying to denigrate the issues that guys are experiencing. I'm just trying to say, try to be a little bit gentle on this company making this very complicated game. There are going to be bugs. There are going to be parts you don't like. Now, I'm running up here because I'm experienced. If you're a new player, this shit's intimidating. There's arrows flying all over the place, and these guys will really damage you if you're a low-level character. That is why we have our shield, right? You stand here, you can stoically handle getting shot at. And this extended view, I'm just holding my shift button, my left shift button. Everybody's is different, right? I don't know what your button might be, but in your first sieges, I'd recommend you do this because if you're going to be in charge, you can't be laying in the dirt. Right, now this is our division. I didn't tell you, I just do it by nature. I have brought them up over here. The siege tower is there. Now here's what's going to happen. When that siege tower gets close to that hole, right, that is where the siege tower I think is going to arrive. It sure looks like it. What we're going to do, and right now we're on hold fire. I should have mentioned that as well. It is F4. So you see I hit I hit the unit, right? So it's first, second, third, fourth. When you hit the division, you see how it says hold fire? I can say fire or shoot at will, and basically every guy either whips out his shield if they're on hold fire, or when I want them to shoot, I hit that F4 again. Now what I'm going to do, I got my pointer, my cursor over there. I'm just going to drag these guys over here. All right, I've got the siege tower coming up. I'm dragging our division over here because we're going to have divisions going up this siege tower. And you probably remember who they were, right? Or maybe you don't. It was this division that we put behind the siege tower. Notice there's dudes pushing it. And some of these guys are skirmishers, right? So some of the guys in this 4th division are already firing axes up there at the enemy. But that is but a taste of what we're going to do, right? We're going to wait a little bit more patience. Just like Braveheart with William Wallace. Hold! Hold! And right about here, I would say let him, I would say fire, right? You guys can, you can tell your guys to fire, and simultaneously, right? Scores of throwing axes go up there. There's a nice big whack of troops up there, of course, because they're coming up here to defend the siege tower. And I would recommend you experiment yourself. Oscillate this on and off, right? Turn it on, turn it off. Keep in mind your troops have limited amounts of ammo. For skirmishers, it's not as obvious how many axes they have. For arrows, it's a lot more clear. So just a little bit of fire there, and then I'll tell our guys hold fire, and they all, you know, they get one last shot, like a kid being told you can't have any more cookies. Now, these guys are not charging, right? This is the division that we told to get on the siege tower. So you can do one of two things. You can click that, or because the siege tower is here, you can usually tell them to charge, and they will get up it, right? They yell and scream, and they charge up it. Now, the reason I'm not having these guys fire right now is, what do you see here, right? I see a bunch of snow and a couple 4 troops there. There's not really a lot of targets for us, right? So I actually recommend holding fire here. Now these guys are charging up there, right? They're going to do their business. Let's look for a better angle, right? Sometimes you can find a better angle. So the 2nd division, that's the only division we're really controlling here. I say follow me. That's F1, F2. And we're just going to look for better angles, right? Now you can tell them just to follow you, and they will simply come right along like little lemmings, right? We can look for targets of opportunity here. And then what I recommend you do, since they're following you, is whenever you have targets, just have them stop, stand still, or you can simply tell them to hold, to open fire, right? Right now they're diligently holding fire. They're like a dog being told, don't move. Now I don't know if you can see it, but there's a huge press of troops right there, and your troops can see them really well, right? So I stop moving, fire, and watch these poor bastards over here, right? Here comes the throwing axes. Just a hail of darts and throwing axes over there. The enemy's going to die en masse. Our guys are vigorously cheering. They're excited. I think that's actually our main character. The throwing axes are still going up there. The death spam is fizzing. And pretty damn simple so far. Now, there's other shit going on because, again, these units were micromanaged. What I mean by that is the AI is in charge of them. Let's get aggressive with our division, right? They're still following me, right? These guys are good little Nords, right? They're obedient. Over here, it looks like somebody was disobedient with the ladders, or oh shit, we got some saboteur trying to kill us. We're gonna raise these ladders ourselves. Always a good idea to see if anybody's getting you in their sights, right? If the archers are lighting you up while you're putting the ladders up, it's not going to work particularly well. Now, once you have your guys here and you're pushing the ladders up, you can do one of two things. You can tell them to charge, or you can have them follow you. I don't recommend a new player, you lead the way, right? Have some other troops lead the way for you, because more than likely, as you're going up by yourself or at the head of the pack, you're going to get carved apart or shot with archers, right? Here comes the defenders. They're vigorously coming over. Now, in this situation here, what I would do is say, follow me, and we're basically just going to try to hold the walls, right? I want to basically hold this position while more dudes come up, right? Now, you can fight, right? This is where you get on some practice. These are mostly militia, right? These are good guys to work on your skills, kick them. And kicking is a really, really valuable weapon for a new player to learn, right? If there's a guy stubbornly blocking, what I do is I mash both the swing weapon button and kick at the same time. You're the only unit that can kick on the battlefield. Take advantage of it, right? It can't be blocked. So you want to time it right. Make sure you don't get stabbed in the face. You can also just hold up your shield and wait for the moment, right? This guy's defending, kick, swing your weapon, and dudes die. Now, we've got a bunch of guys up here. There's like 20 or 30 guys. Let's have them continue to follow me, and we'll push in here. Start to get aggressive on the enemy. Now you break out your two-handed weapon, and it's mostly militia. Of course, these guys always block better than your legionary, but it's still a really good opportunity to work on your combat skill. Now, these guys aren't being told to attack. The 2nd Division is simply being told to follow me, and there's actually so many here, now it's a good idea to charge. Right, we've basically overwhelmed this side of the city. This siege defense is actually already over. But hopefully, just a few basic things. You know, part of me hesitates to make episodes like this. That's why I tried to make it clear in the beginning of this episode that there would be some beginner stuff involved. And the enemy didn't just lose here. We mangled this foe, right? Now, you know, you might be able to F1, F3 and have similar results. But I think one of the keys with having, you know, units follow you, having them hold fire and fire when you want them to, is you gain experience doing that, right? You get used to commanding your troops and saying, I want you guys to stand right here. That experience will be tremendously helpful to a relatively inexperienced player. And the next thing you know, you'll be telling 3 or 4 divisions what to do. All right, friends, that concludes the easy siege for this campaign. We're doing these guides kind of intermixed with this campaign. And for the experienced player, you can now pay attention again. We're going to continue cruising on with this siege. We fought this garrison here in relatively easy mode, right, without too much micromanagement, and still blasted our way through, right? We've got some battalion units now we're starting to upgrade, and we're getting mighty powerful here. I think the last thing we need to try to do in this episode, besides the end stage here, we're sending in 19 Huskarls. That'll do. I don't even have to, there's no pressure there, right? 19 Huskarls is going to take care of business. Heaps of influence, and I don't want too many prisoners, but man, is it tempting. We're really loading up on fiends and other nasty skirmishers. We're looking for more water battle, of course, in this campaign, and it never hurts to have a bunch of nasty skirmishers. So we do some more upgrades here. We're going to sail, what's it called? We're going to sail to, yeah, that place, Gretisfjord, because I'm going to do a mix too. For anybody curious, I want some of both because we're going to be fighting on land a good bit. I think a mix is a good idea. A mix of Marines, when you have the option, in other words, let me just back up and explain that. When you have the option here, and you frequently do, because these troop trees branch off, right? You have the choice, basically. In fact, you have 3 choices here. Do you want the Marine unit? Do you want the Wildling? Now, why would you take the Marine unit at all? Because they fight great on water. Now, why would you take the land unit? Because they fight great on land, right? You're definitely going to be doing some of both in your campaign, and I think it makes sense to have some heavily armored wildlings in your army as well as some Marines, right? So my general feeling is that you should do some of both. Obviously, you can tailor it to your experience and what you're facing, right? If you're facing 90% land battles, probably going to go with more non-Marine units. It just makes sense, right? All right, we're going to pillage here. It makes the troops happy, and it makes the Valandians very angry. We're ruining our relation here. That's okay. Fuck them. Let's see if this guy. I think we're maxed out on companions. Yeah, we can't take any more companions. They don't have any troops here. I'm going to see if there's any good loot here, and we're going to sail and try to get married. Hopefully she's available. She looks single. And I was hoping there'd be, you know, like a legendary something or other, some really nice arrows, but they're not. We'll take their fancy food, right? Well, the foodie in me can't help but try to take some of their nice food, and we're out of here. Now, again, the garrison, I guess there's a small chance that we get this city, but I don't think so, right? We just left a bunch of troops in the garrison, 163. And you can't get to the garrison, right? Because there's going to be a vote, and we're not likely to get it. That's just the reality of it. But this was the other purpose of it, right? How's our fleet right here? Man, am I confused. I didn't call it. Did I call it? Oh, well. I don't understand. There's bugs or something fishy. My ships are moving all over the place. It's like they're a special needs kid. They're putting their fingers in light sockets, and it's hard to understand what's going on. Now, we don't actually need any ships. I'm just sort of glancing here. I'm curious, right? What's at the Botanian city? And I've heard the Botanians have shitty ships. That sure seems to be the case. Let's set sail, and let's see. Let's try to get married. Let's see. Oh shit, we got a problem here. Oh, it's mostly disorganized. So you're looking at all the numbers there, and it looks like we're crawling. It's temporary because obviously we just took this city. So away goes our armada, and you know, we'll look for ocean battles, but out here in the middle of the ocean, I think your chances of finding battles is incredibly remote. I don't think you should expect battle here. I might even do a little editing because we're still going pretty slow. It's also time to consider disbanding some of this army. I'm not sure you can do that at sea. It looks like, so you can disband your army at sea, but you cannot call more units to you. I think we'll just keep, we have plenty of influence. I think we'll keep them near us. Where's this Grettis Fjord? We'll probably edit here a little bit, but we're going to try to get married. What's her name? Gulag or something? Gulta. I think I'm in love. This gal here, this is fucking... I am in love. She's like a badass steward, and she has combat skills. She's a skirmisher, an athletic skirmisher. And who doesn't want to wake up to that frown every day? I love the fact that she's cruel. I'm in, right? We're going to see if she's available. In fact, let's see. Her dad at Horgar? I'm not sure that's a great name for... she's married. She's married. Okay. There's a pretty good chance we get married here. But maybe we won't make you watch this. In fact, I'm not gonna. Oh, wait. You got to see this, though. Oh, shit. There's only 1 hour left. Come on, come on, come on. We're not even in consideration. So the Nords are kind of treating us like a bitch, which plays into a little role-playing here. You guys know we're definitely going to go independent. I'm not going to do it right away because I definitely want to include some battles against the Khazate as a vassal, right? That's coming. We've got to at least sharpen our sword. And Botania didn't like us marching through their homeland. They just declared war on us. So maybe I will show this part because there's somewhat significant shit happening. And it's time to call the war dogs, evidently, against the Botanians. That's good, right? We want multiple targets. But we really did a number on Valandia here, and now the king is sieging. I'll bet you $5 he's captured. Here, we'll say by spring 10, the king gets captured. The AI is so bad with siege. It just, like, absolutely rams itself into a wall. We're going to disband this army too. I think, you know what? You have to disband the army to get married. You cannot get married, evidently, with an entourage. They don't dig it. They must feel it's like a power trip or something. You roll into the... Is that them? This Halfdar guy's a clown. It's really too bad, right? They had an opportunity to make Halfdar a badass. All of a sudden, it looks like a desert here. I guess we're in spring. This was snowy as fuck a second ago. And what a hapless piece of shit. He's a senile. Yeah. Let's get married. Fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling. Halfdar. He was a dipshit in our first campaign. Man, he was bad. We've got our companions, but man, our army has really shrunk. We're going to have to restock with some Nordlings here. Let's see, we go to town center. We want to leave. I'm going to dump all these people. Consider you guys dumped. And where's our wife here? I'm counting our chickens before they hatch. This gal here. Who am I looking for? Horgar. Okay. And we want to we want to make sure we can gather up our companions. This is an important thing. Most people know this already, but make sure your companions are at least 40% of their force size. Otherwise, they can't join your army, right? They have to be, I think, 40%. Oh shit! I don't want to send prisoners over. Whoops! Damn it! Send troops. Yeah. There we go. And it's temporary, right? We're dumping them here just to get married. And we got to do our archer gal. And then we're going to wrap this episode up. I guess maybe we won't get married. There's a chance. But either way, right? Either we're going to have a wedding or we're going to be seeking somebody else. And we're gonna wrap this episode up. We got to disband. We just disband the whole army. Sorry, that was painful probably for some people. All right, let's see what this guy says. Hello, sir. We'd like to marry your daughter. Hey, we're going to have to disband somebody here, right? We found our first, this is a mariner, right? And plus, he looks awesome, right? He looks like a dwarf, but that's all right. We'll take a dwarf in our, I wish he was 3 feet tall. He would look exactly like Gimli or something like that. I don't think we have no space, but maybe I'll look for one of our companions to ditch. It's too early to make a kingdom and player clans, but first things first, where's Horgar? Tell me he's here still. Oh no. Motherfucker's not here. Well, you guys are snickering on the other end. Ha ha, this is Bannerlord for you. Where is he? Horgar? Where is this fucking guy? Yeah, so he teleports. All right, well, that's going to have to be next episode, friends. Now I got to reform the army. What's the Homer Simpson? That's how I feel right now. Sorry if I just shouted in your ears. All right, friends, we're going to wrap this episode up. We're going to see if there's any loot here. We're going to pick up this dwarf, and we will pick up this campaign next time.